March 24th, 2022, and this is our meeting of the Police Accountability Board. And we do have a very full agenda tonight. And so I am going to go ahead and have Ms. Pacheco do the roll call, please.
Okay. Chair Wilson?
Present.
Member Harrison?
Present.
Member Nikoloff?
Present.
Member Brown?
Present.
Member Settle?
Present.
Member Harvey? Oh, I think he's
Present.
muted, but he said present, I believe.
Present.
Thank you. And Vice Chair Tucker?
Present.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, everyone. So we're going to go ahead and go on with the approval of minutes, please. Everyone should have had an opportunity to review, and so I will go ahead and if anybody needs to look at it, but if we can go ahead and put that up for your request, but if not, I'm going to look for a motion to approve. Or
Move.
okay. And then all in favor of approving the minutes for excuse me.
Don't we need a second?
Oh, we had a second in Danielle. Vice Chair Tucker. Yep. Okay, so we have that second. So motion's been seconded to approve the minutes from March 2nd, 2022. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, motion carries.
Yes, motion carried.
7, 8. Okay, thank you so much. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and move into the staff report.
Good evening, board members. There's been quite a bit of staff activity since we last spoke. I'm going to try and keep this brief, but I would suggest that we might want to refer specific discussion of some of these items to either committees or to another board meeting that you might want to schedule next week. There's so much to get through here, and I believe that there's a desire to focus on the structure and rules for PAB and the board so that we can do the rest of the work effectively. But I'm going to start by talking about the office move-in. Members of the public know that the 245 East Main Street, right next to Parcel 5, the first floor of that building called the Seneca Building, currently where the Democrat and Chronicle is operating, the first floor there, the city will be signing a sublease either tomorrow or early next week to formally allow the PAB to move into that space. It's a wonderful space for a lot of reasons. It's move-in ready. It comes fully equipped and furnished, so we don't have to buy a bunch of additional equipment for it. Can fit all of our staff, is very secure, allows us to do lots of community engagement, bring people into the PAB, and allow people who come to work with us, whether it's police officers or members of the public, to have safe, confidential, and discreet ways of working with our staff to protect people's privacy and their dignity. So we're very much excited to be moving into that space. Assuming that the contract does get signed tomorrow or early next week, our staff will start moving in there piece by piece. We still have some things to do in this space with regards to internet setup, et cetera. But members of the board, the moment that the space is ready for all of you to come in, I will be sending an invitation for a lunch meeting or a dinner meeting so that you can come sit with the staff, have a social event together, and to kind of make the new space welcoming for everyone. So the moment that we have details on that, I will circulate it to you all. Regarding the RPD chief selection process, folks who don't know, Mayor Evans is currently looking for a new police chief. The mayoral administration invited 3 of our board members to participate in a focus group with the consulting firm leading the search for that chief. And I'd like to give a few minutes to any member of that session to maybe report back on how that went. I know Rabbi Settle was interested in speaking.
Thanks. So I'll be brief. I apologize to the board. I had notes that I'm going to write up and send to everybody, so you're up to date on sort of the details. I just want to say, first of all, I was very impressed with the individual whose name I've now forgotten, who is running the search. And he seemed
His name
to
was
be
Peterson.
Quite a top. Gary Peterson. Right? Yeah, Gary Peterson, I think. Anyway, but there were 2 particular concerns that came out of this that I think the PAB and supporters of the PAB need to address. One is he is recommending in terms of process, and he doesn't know yet what the mayor has done about this, that the mayor form a search committee, that after all these sort of listening sessions that he's doing with different stakeholders and constituents, that the mayor form a search committee. And he agreed that absolutely someone from the PAB should be on that search committee. So we want to get that message to the mayor and make sure the community gets that message to the mayor that someone from the PAB should be on that police chief search committee. That's part one. And I think the other concern, and we can all sort of look into this, is because the city charter does not permit anyone to be paid more than the mayor, getting the kind of really strong candidate that we're looking for, particularly candidates of color, is going to be difficult in what is now a very competitive market where places are offering significantly more than Rochester is now able to do. And we need to sort of explore what that's going to mean for what we can look for or find. So those are two issues that I think, the public should be aware of. And in terms of meeting the kinds of goals, I think that we all want to see in the reforms and changes in the police department. And so as I said, other details I'm happy to sort of write up and send to people.
Thank you so much. Director Dwyer Reynolds, go ahead.
Okay, I don't know if anyone else who attended the panel wanted to say anything, but all good. Okay. Next up, I'd like to talk about the revised staffing model. PAB, as folks know, submitted a budget way back in spring of last year, about a year ago, that had a tentative vision for how PAB would staff up. That tentative vision had about 55, 56 staff in it, in a bunch of different divisions. Since that time, we have worked with human resources, outside consultants to refine this vision over time. When we last met with the Human Resources Department in February, there was a general consensus that PAB needed to have a final vision, a final model, instead of this piecemeal approach, because we are up to about halfway fully staffed up. And so what the staff has done is take a lot of the input we received from board members, from human resources, and from members of city council to come up with a revised vision of how to staff PAB. Effectively roughly the same amount of people, but with three major differences from our initial vision. First, in our original vision, none of our staffers were considered non-managerial positions. That is, they earned a salary beneath about $50,000. Working with input we received, the final staffing model has almost half of our positions now classified as non-managerial. These are entry or line level positions, so people can come into PAB with less experience and still get a chance to work with us. And that also helps us create ladders of promotion within PAB so that people can start out entry level and work their way up through the years. The staffing model also simplifies our structure dramatically and also helps create pathways to promotion by reducing the number of job titles that we have. Right now we have dozens of job titles. We'd like to really narrow that down to just a couple handful. And then finally, maybe the most important piece, our revised staffing model removes barriers to entry while maintaining high standards, right? So a common complaint with a lot of different city positions is that they require college degrees, oftentimes in specific subject areas, in order to obtain a job. What we've proposed is that for the vast majority of positions at PAB, we accept in lieu of education relevant work experience. So what that means is that someone who has a GED or a high school education can still come work at PAB, even if you didn't go and get the formal degree, so long as you have relevant work experience, right? Because what matters at the end of the day is that you have the talent and ability to do the work rather than the credential, which often costs money and can be very exclusionary. So with those three big changes, we haven't modified really the number of people that are coming at PAB, still in the mid-50s. We've just created more opportunities for people in Rochester to come work for us. And so, I'm not going to get into the new organization chart. It's very similar to past ones that have been seen. I want to make sure that board members have a chance to dive into that later. So I'm happy to present this in detail to the Budget and Finance Committee, Board Member Harrison, at your leisure. I also want to talk about briefly the fact that City Council's liaison to PAB, Councilmember Kim Smith, has communicated that the council as a whole would like to have a work session with the Police Accountability Board very soon in April to hear more about updates from the last time we met with the board back in October. She has proposed a number of dates, one of which would be April 14th, which is a few Thursdays from now. I believe it's 3 Thursdays from now. And so that could be an option for the board. There's some other options, I believe the 20th other dates. I will circulate an email, and Rena will circulate an email to check in on people's availabilities for that. And the board, I think, should discuss how we want to approach that, whether or not we want it to be primarily a staff-led discussion or board-led, et cetera. I will leave it up to the board, but just something that you all should think about discussing in the days to come. And relevant to that is a memo that was circulated to folks from President Melendez. When we sat down with President Melendez at the beginning of the year, we discussed the need to have a better way for the mayor's administration to communicate with PAB's board and its staff. And so President Melendez, I think, very kindly came up with a vision for how there should be communications between the administration and PAB. But at day's end, PAB, because these rules will affect how all of you can communicate with different parts of city government, I think it's important for the board to sit down and think whether or not these rules are the right way to do it. If we need to have future conversations with President Melendez about what the right way to go about this is. Very open dialogue there. President Melendez has asked for input, for discussion. So I just want to put that on people's radar. Maybe this is something for the Rules Committee to discuss or the board as a whole. I just wanted to put it out there. I also wanted to talk briefly about our complaint and investigation process. So as you all know, back in January, the PAB submitted to the city's law department a draft set of rules to govern our investigations into potential officer misconduct. That draft of the rules was sent around to the board before it was circulated to the law department. The law department took a look at it and a few weeks ago got us back final comments. I believe this was about 2 weeks ago, got us back final comments and some responses. We were very happy to receive those comments. There was a number of areas in which we agree with the proposed changes from the law department. They were very smart recommended changes on things like the law department taking care of freedom of information law requests rather than our own staff. Some tweaks to the law tweaks to our rules to make sure that we follow some civil service law requirements, things that we're very much in agreement with. There are a few places where there are significant disagreements, and we can talk about those again in more detail, maybe in a different session. But maybe the most important area of disagreement is over the PAB's ability to investigate officer-involved shootings and deaths. To summarize it briefly, right now, the law, whenever there is an officer-involved shooting or death, the police cordon off the area with yellow tape, and who is called to the scene beyond police officers themselves is the law department, a representative from the city's team of lawyers, as well as a member of the RPD's own internal affairs unit. Both these people go underneath the tape. There's a set of rules and procedures about how RPD's internal affairs unit go. The standard operating procedures to do a walkthrough where the supervising officer on scene walks you carefully through the scene, points out the evidence, shows you what's going on so that you can record notes to start your investigation, right? And so PAB would like to have our investigator at the scene as well, because we are going to have to investigate these incidents, and to do it appropriately, we need our staff there. So the city's law department, at least at their first review of this, has suggested that there are many legal barriers to our doing so, and that it would be inappropriate to have our investigators there. Our lawyers have looked into it, and it seems like the law does suggest that we can, in fact, be there. This is within our rights to do so. And that we need to do it in terms of our ability to effectively investigate these shootings. Our consultants who are experts in this have suggested that if we don't have investigators doing that on-scene initial walkthrough, we might not even want to investigate officer-involved shootings in the first place because we won't have the best information. It will be fairly easy to dismiss our investigations because the RPD's internal affairs unit will have been there, the law department will have been there, and their conclusions will be stronger than ours. So the question to the board is not whether or not we have the legal authority to do these kind of walkthroughs, but whether or not the board wants us to sit down and have a discussion with the law department specifically about this issue. Right now, the law department's position is that there's no discussion to be had about this, that the city will not allow us to do these kind of walkthroughs and on-scene access. And I do think that there's some places where we have some common ground. We want to work with the Rochester Police Department to implement this effectively, so no one feels uncomfortable about this. We want to do it in practice. We want to work with RPD, whoever else is on the scene, to make sure we're not interfering with the criminal investigation. That's a common concern that we really want to address. But we've called other PABs across the country. This is a common practice for PABs to go on scene for officer-involved shootings and observe and record and start investigations there. And so the question to the board would be, and this is something we can discuss during the board's business section. The question would be whether or not the board wants the staff to move forward with discussions about this because the board believes it's a priority for us to investigate these incidents. I'm happy to take questions.
Can I interject really quick?
Please, of course.
You have two questions, Rabbi and then Chair Wilson.
We also discussed having our Ms. Pacheco leaving our comments for 2 minutes and under. To make sure that's being timed. Thank you.
I have two questions. So I guess, or to me, both this and I have a concern about the law department handling FOIAs points out how they have a fundamental conflict of interest because they feel that somehow they're acting for the police department in making this decision. And I think that actually what this needs to be is a larger conversation about the role that corporate counsel can play in making any decisions related to PAB activities, given that conflict of interest. It's not just about this one thing, but in general, it seems that they're not the right people in that sense to be making those decisions, and that we have to have that larger conversation.
So I agree with Rabbi. I'm also pretty concerned about the conflict of interest. It's not perceived. I think that there should be a discussion had with corporate counsel. But I think my question for you, Executive Director, would be what are the individual issues that they have?
So the primary, I'm sorry, just to clarify, Chair Wilson, is it the issues beyond the on-scene investigation or the issues with on-scene investigation?
I would say let's start with issues with on-scene investigation, since we're talking about people that are being killed and going on scene, since that's pretty important.
Sure. Can you give me 1 minute to bring this up? Because I'd like to really get into specifics here.
While you're doing that, I want to apologize to folks who are watching or whatever for having my camera off. I'm having internet problems, and if I have my video off, I can keep connection. So I apologize for having my camera off.
Yes, Rabbi, it is a little bit better when your camera's off. It still cuts out a little bit, but we can hear you a little bit better when it's off.
So I will say it will take some time to go through all of the issues, Chair Wilson. And so I don't want to take up too much time on this specific issue.
I would just say the number one most pressing issue, the one that concerns that is the most concerning.
I think there is the belief that having PAB investigators on scene will compromise the integrity of the investigations. That's not a legal argument, it's a policy argument. So it's not that the law bars us from this, but I think there's a general concern that having civilians on scene who are not in the law department will compromise the integrity of investigations. In reality, all we're asking to do is the same thing that the law department's lawyers do.
Dr. Harrison has his hand up.
Connor, isn't there a present day example of this problem?
Of other police accountability boards going on scene at crimes?
No, of a police officer who's deceased.
I don't understand your question.
Wasn't there a recent incident of a civilian death, and the person of interest was found as a suicide?
Yes.
And that's specifically the kind of situation that we would need to be able to look at.
I also wanted to say too that when it comes to having access to the data, especially on a scene, one of the things that one of the consultants said was, that it had been this became best practice because there was just such a time lapse in information access, which is what I think we've been really hammering at with our PD for the last 2 years now. And so we need to be able to get the data. And for instance, if you walk across the street because there's, at a corner store, you should be able to access the same data that our PD is able to access, especially if there are civilians on scene, and the fact of the law department being there is just because they are representative of the mayor. So, we represent the community. I think that that's fair.
Reverend Harvey? You're on mute.
I think it would be a great thing if we could be there on the scene when something takes place, but I think we have to keep in mind that we are the police accountability board and not the police. And I think I'm just thinking that, are we policing or are we holding the police accountable? And I understand that we would have our own opinions. We would have our own, we would see it from first experience. I'm just concerned that we don't police versus holding police accountable. Maybe you don't understand me either, but that's what I'm thinking. That we're not policing, but we are the board that holds police accountable.
Board Member Brown?
Yes, great evening. Reverend Harvey, I think perhaps one way for us to not police, but be there and get the information is for one of our someone from the law department to be there, as well as the mayor's lawyer and the police, so that all three branches have a representative to look at the evidence. We're not reading what someone else wrote. Our investigator was there on the scene, and this is what he or she observed. We have had problems with the city, with the police department in the city before, trying to get information. And with many of the things that we could have possibly done was delayed miserably because people would not release the information. And let's say our investigator or person from the law department observed something different than what perhaps the city lawyer saw. Now there's an opportunity for a discussion, but because we did not have someone on the scene at the time, we have to take someone else's word for it. And I don't really feel that we would be serving the community to the best of our ability if we don't have eyes at the scene that we can justify and say, this is what our person observed, as opposed to taking the information secondhand if we get it.
I'm in favor.
Thank you, Board Member Brown. Is it back to Director Reynolds?
So I think I've heard a lot here. The only thing I want to clarify is that the people on the scene would be only our investigators. It would not be a board member. It will be people trained to do this specific kind of work. And they would be trained to not interfere with criminal collection of evidence. We would not do anything like criminal prosecution we wouldn't get involved in. So that's what I'll say there. I just want to clarify, this is still the staff report part of the board meeting. If folks want to vote and consider things, they'll happen a little bit later, okay? So another thing I just wanted to bring up was a common question that we've gotten is, what is the PAB doing in the present moment when we aren't investigating complaints? Now that we've brought on our deputy chief of case management and we're having some case managers come on board, we're happy to have a bit of an informal information reception process. That's just to allow people who maybe want to file a complaint when we open our doors, they have a chance to still get in contact with us, leave a voicemail, get an email into us so that we can follow up with them at the end of May when we hope to open our doors. This is really a hotline and a voicemail box and an email address that board members can use when people contact you, city council members can use when they contact them. This is not complaint intake. This is not receiving complaints. This is just a chance for people who really want to get in touch with us now to leave some basic information with us so we can follow up with them in the future. So I'm just going to share my screen here for a second. Thank you again to Deputy Chief of Case Management, Melody Harkness, for pulling this together. It actually was quite a bit of a technical feat to get this done. We have this phone number here, 585-557-2494. People, it's just no one will answer. It is just a voicemail that instructs people exactly on what's going on with PAB, what information to leave, and that you will be contacted. The same thing happens if you email pab@cityofrochester.gov. This will all be launching early next Monday, formally. So you can email this address. There's an automatic response with the same information that's in the voicemail. And again, it just requests that you leave your name, phone, and email address if possible. This is just a way to make sure we can get in contact with people and people don't forget about it, okay? And for record keeping processes, people, we have a call log, so our people will check the voicemail, check the email, record everything else, send confirmation emails out to the people to ensure they know that that we actually heard their message, and we will be following up with them soon. Okay. So again, I'm just going to scroll up here. These numbers and emails will be circulated to the board the moment that everything goes live. Okay. So I just wanted to share that. And again, thank you to the folks in case management who got this off the ground. Really appreciate it. So finally, I just wanted to talk about the proposed rules of order and the revised committee structure. I believe that this is going to be one of the things that the board might spend the most time talking about tonight, is maybe the reality that the board's work, for members of the public who don't know, is going to change significantly in about 2 months. That's about the time at which PAB is going to start accepting complaints and investigating them. At that time, the board's role will become, in addition to its work of overseeing the Police Accountability Board staff like me, their job will also include reviewing cases. Let me explain exactly what that is. Police Accountability Board staff is responsible for investigating complaints of police misconduct and potential incidents of police misconduct. The staff's job is to thoroughly, fairly, and quickly investigate these complaints, gather the evidence, conduct interviews, and write reports that apply the law and rules to the facts, and make recommendations and findings about whether or not rules were violated and what changes might need to happen in the wake of such a violation. But before the board will release that to the public, the report would go before a panel of 3 board members who would have a chance to first read over all the materials and then get together and hear from the staff that conducted the investigation, ask any questions, and then vote on whether or not to approve of the findings or refer them back for further investigation or decline to approve of the findings. At that point, the board would then either go back and reinvestigate or release the results of any completed investigation where there's been wrongdoing found to the public. So that is a significant amount of work for board members reviewing these cases. Again, our expectation is to get hundreds of complaints and conduct hundreds of investigations. That's going to be a significant amount of work for the volunteer board members who you see on this screen. Regardless of that additional workload, the board will still also have to oversee the work of myself and the staff when it comes to things like spending money, hiring staff. We still have to form a youth committee, all of these things. And the board has to hold meetings and carve out time to make this all sustainable for them. And so as the board transitions into this new moment, it might be a useful opportunity for the board to think carefully about its current structure and maybe a new structure when it comes to things like information sharing, board meetings, and committees in the days to come. At the end of the day, it is the board that's responsible for making these decisions. The staff is here to develop proposals and a range of opportunities that the board can think about. In preparation for tonight's meeting, the PAB staff have drafted a set of rules of order for board meetings that would allow board meetings to have a clear structure in terms of how agendas were circulated, in terms of how the rules for how people held discussions, and how board meetings would be open and closed, as well as coming up with some sketches of how the board structure might operate. And so those are some documents that have been circulated around to the board members, and that is where the board is at, and that's where the staff is at on this. So Chair Wilson, that is effectively the end of my staff report.
Thank you so much, Director Reynolds. I'm sorry if I got it incorrect.
Okay.
You want to move to the next agenda item, Chair Wilson?
Yes, thank you so much. So the committee reports, I believe that we have a committee report from Jobs Committee and also from Finance Committee. So Jobs Committee, Dr. Harvey, would you like to just give report on what we went through last week, please?
I have a point of clarification.
Go ahead.
Sorry, weren't we supposed to have written minutes from those committees?
I believe we were.
Okay, in lieu of oral reports, so that we didn't have to spend time on doing that?
That's correct. So we can go ahead then
Okay.
and hold on. So we can go ahead and we can have them be submitted later for people to review.
Or could we just ask that the chairs ask if there's anything that we need to discuss or decide that came out of those meetings? But
Oh,
otherwise,
well, there actually is. There actually is
Okay.
something we should discuss. Okay. Board Member Brown.
Yes, Chair Wilson. Because the minutes were not circulated prior to this, the way that the members of the committee were going to bring us the information, I would appreciate it if they could do that now as planned. And then for the next meeting, we'll make sure that we will have minutes circulated, because the speed at which things are happening, we really don't have time to put things on hold if we possibly can avoid them.
I agree. Reverend Harvey, does that sound reasonable to you?
Yes. Chair Wilson, since we met last week, I've traveled, unfortunately, about 3 different cities. I'm going to ask if you would report for me, if you would give the report for me.
So I'll go ahead and I will submit that to the board tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow morning, I'll go ahead and work on that. Okay?
Okay.
All right. And I think did we have a finance committee?
The finance committee met and have requested material from PAB staff and have not remet and have not received or reviewed those materials yet.
Sorry, we did receive the budget.
Good. Yeah, that was sent out a couple days ago.
Dr. Harrison, there might be some issue with your Excel. I know that the last document you received from us in Excel was blank. So I need to make sure that anything you receive is in a PDF file because I don't think you're getting the Excel files.
Could be. I'll look again.
Okay.
Okay, folks, thank you so much.
Next agenda item.
Next agenda item, we are moving on to business. So we have a proposal that is referring staff created rules for board meetings to rules committee for review.
I have a motion to make.
Go ahead, please.
In light of the fact that we actually have to pass these rules before we can do our board training, and I would like to begin our board training as scheduled next on the 31st. I'd like to move that we pass the rules with the understanding that they can still be reviewed by the rules committee and the rest of the board, and we can make any amendments as necessary, but that we, having at least looked over them, I can't see anything egregious or, terribly problematic, and that, we can approve them with the understanding that if there is something that comes up, it can be amended, but that we need to do that to move forward on our own work. So I would like to move, in fact, that not that we refer to rules committee, but that we approve the rules as given to us tonight.
Madam
Okay.
Chair,
Yes.
we're already doing business. That represents an improvement, if you will, or I guess. So it seems trivial.
It seems trivial to call for a motion, or it seems trivial to.
Yeah. I mean, why not stick with what we think is a procedure that we have for a committee to review first and then the board vote?
Because since it is now
We're doing business right now, Rabbi.
Wait, Bob, I'm sorry. Okay, maybe I didn't make it clear. A week from today, we're supposed to start our board training.
I understand.
We can't start that training if we have not passed these rules. So we do not have time. So we have to either choose between having the rules go to committee or beginning our training. I think it is more important, given what the work that we have ahead of us, for us to begin our training than for that to go to follow that procedure, with the understanding that it doesn't stop the committee from making suggestions further on for any emendations or changes to those rules. So
why can't you start the training without the rules, Rabbi?
We've been told that we cannot. It's not
Who's told
up
us
to
what?
me. We've been told that we cannot.
Who?
The people doing the training. SMK.
Okay.
Okay.
They're imposing a rule on us.
No, it's that they feel that that their training is rooted in the rules.
Okay.
Yes, okay, that's okay.
So we're gonna, so the motion is still on the floor. Reverend Nikoloff, go ahead.
Hey, just to clarify what
No one has seconded the motion,
So I'll second. But I know that Reverend Nikoloff still wanted to talk a little bit, so.
No, I just wanted to, again, attempt to clarify. It sounds like what we're saying is, if I'm hearing it correct, let's pass the rules tonight. And if there's things we want to kind of tinker with, we can send the tinkering to the committee to amend it. But let's not let's not try to get into the weeds tonight on the rules. Let's adopt what we can so that we can keep moving forward.
It's Robert's Rules of Order. We've already followed them.
Okay.
I'm not talking about the procedural rules. I'm talking about the 42-page document about the investigative rules.
No, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm meaning as well. Dr. Harrison, do you need any more? Do you? need
No,
any- No?
no.
Okay. So, so the motion is seconded. So, all in favor as, for the motion to, go ahead and adopt the rules with the understanding that they can be
There might
amended.
be other discussion.
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
Need to be other discussion about it?
So that's what I thought we were doing, but okay.
No, you just said all in favor.
Oh, well, somebody else didn't get, and I actually didn't say all in favor yet. So I was actually just stating what you had stated. So going over it again, but Dr. Harvey, did you have something you wanted to? Okay,
He was voting.
okay,
Yeah, he was voting. Yeah.
all right. So I'm not gonna go through all that again. We already know what we're gonna vote on. So is there any other discussion that needs to be had on this proposal? Okay, all in favor of voting for the proposal that Rabbi Settle has requested? All in favor?
Yes from Harvey, yes from Nikolov, yes from Settle, yes from Brown, yes from Wilson. I believe that is a nay from Harrison. How do you vote? Dr. Harrison, how do you vote?
Nay.
Okay, and Tucker.
Okay.
Okay. That is 5-2.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Motion does pass. All right, so next on our business is the proposal for, to direct the executive director to receive input on new committee and meeting structure from stakeholders, revise proposal and submit to the committee for review. That's a mouthful. Okay. Vice Chair.
Sorry, just a clarifying question. So the proposal is for the ED to receive input on new committee and meeting structure from stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders?
That would be you all.
Okay,
And because one aspect of the potential new committee structure is the involvement of the Police Accountability Board Alliance.
okay, gotcha. That's what I was referencing. I was trying to make sure it was them.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Rabbi Settle.
Sorry, I'm concerned, I guess, I would like more of a participatory stakeholder process in thinking about this. And I also guess I'm sort of interested to know how other accountability boards sort of handle these things and structure themselves before we commit ourselves to any particular model.
Can you say the first part again, Rabbi? You kind of.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not home, and I apologize that I'm not in a place with great Wi-Fi. I said I would like more of a participatory stakeholder engaged process to think about these things. In other words, I think that this is the kind of thing that the board itself should be having conversations, because it has to do with how we see our role and our nature, and maybe, you know, also in relationship to PABA leadership or something, but that it rather than something just sort of in a sense being suggested to us, I would like to see more of any, you know, engaged, facilitated visioning process, if you will, about this. And and I would be curious to know what other boards do.
Okay. Question, this is to Director Reynolds and Chair Wilson. When we go for the vote, you can vote on how you feel about that, correct?
So
Okay.
I think we're in the argument, or we're in the discussion phase, right? Since the proposal's on the floor? Yes. Thank you. I guess I'll raise my hand then. Ooh, hello. So I know that there are, I know we really want to get this done with committee work. I know we really, really want to. I know that there's going to be talks with the Alliance about how this is going to go. I really would love to see some talks happen first before we agree on a format. I'm just going to throw that out there with everybody and just see what everybody thinks about it. But that's something I'd really love to see. Sorry. Board Member
Go
Brown?
ahead, Board Member Brown, then Board Member Harvey, then Board Member Harrison.
Chair Wilson, I apologize. What proposal is actually on the floor? Could you be kind enough to restate it? And is it stated as something that we're supposed to be voting on? I got a little lost in the sauce here.
Yes, so thank you so much, Board Member. The proposal is to direct the Executive Director to receive input on new committee and meeting structure from stakeholders, to revise proposal and submit to the Rules Committee for review. That's the current thing, current proposal on the floor right now.
And just for clarification, Board Member Brown, stakeholders includes the board themselves as well as the PABA. All
So
right.
that's what the motion
Sorry,
is to have this.
Can you, Chair Wilson, can you say that again a little more slowly? Say
Sure.
what you said again a little more slowly. Thank you.
Yep, you got it. So proposal, direct Executive Director to receive input on new committee and meeting structure from stakeholders, to revise proposal and submit to the Rules Committee for review. Is that okay? Okay. All
I
right.
believe it's Harrison and then Tucker.
Dr. Harrison? You're on mute, Dr. Harrison.
A lot of this is based on the prediction that we're going to be overwhelmed with cases in a few months and everything is going to go all to hell. Things don't always work out the way you predict them. I think that it might be reasonable to try and evaluate what impact doing cases is going to have on our time and attention by having staff put together a imaginary report and let the board play with it.
Thank you, Dr. Harrison. Dr. Harvey?
Initially, I was in favor of what Board Member Settle said, more information, more comparisons with other boards. But after hearing it a couple of times, I think I could be ready to vote on the request or the motion that's on the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Harvey. It was myself and then Director Reynolds. I just wanted to point out that all of the business is on today's agenda. So like when you pull up today's agenda, we're on bullet 2, and then you're able to follow it as we go. I know a few of the proposals, even the upcoming proposals, are quite wordy, but it is on today's agenda under 6 business, and we're on bullet number 2, going to bullet number 3 after this vote. It'll kind of save us some time with, kind of clarifying what proposal is on the table. Go ahead, Director Reynolds.
Thank you, Vice Chair Tucker. The proposal is to direct me and the staff to do the research in collaboration to figure out next steps. And so everything I'm hearing right now about what the board is looking for, whether it's Board Member Harrison's interest in examples of other reports, or whether it's a desire to see what other boards do, this is the kind of research and work that we can and will pull together before coming back to folks. And I think the next step for us would be to figure out how to have conversations between all of us and the Alliance to talk about this.
Go ahead, Reverend Nickoloff, and then Dr. Harrison.
I just really want to strongly make sure it doesn't get lost in the mix. Agree with Dr. Harrison's idea that I think it'd be enriching for the staff to, try to come up with something that would really challenge the board to see what it's like in terms of some empirical kind of, not just to get a sense of the time, but also for the practice. And I think it'd be fun for the staff as well, and in a way to kind of come up with something that would really use the staff's gifts in a different way, kind of like a game almost. And I think that could be a fun thing for everyone, but also an important way to engage this as well as the training we're doing. So just like, yeah, wanted to strongly agree and recommend that be part of whatever we do.
Dr. Harrison, go ahead.
Most boards function quite well, quite effectively with a fairly straightforward committee structure, and usually some kind of executive council. I'm just concerned that we're anticipating problems and responding to them when we've not done the simple, straightforward thing first of setting up the proper structure for our board that it needs.
You guys put your hand up at the same time, so I don't know who it was. So let's go with Chair Wilson and then go with Director Reynolds.
So I think that's a good time to flag that, Dr. Harrison, that we still have board structuring that we have to deal with and tackle. That's probably the most important thing we need to do now. And so I think that I have to agree with Rabbi Settle and Dr. Harrison that I think that we really need to take a look at our structuring before we move on to look at committee work. It's got to be done, and it's got to be done very soon, like now.
Okay, we don't have any more hands. So I guess we're at the end of discussion. If you want to put the proposal on the table so we can vote.
Yep. So proposal again. Proposal is direct executive director.
Proposal is
Whoa, hello?
Can you raise your hand, Rabbi Settle?
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I just had a point of clarification. So what we're voting on is actually to sort of have a process of developing something, not the model that was given to us. Okay, thank you.
I thought we were voting to send it to the Rules Committee.
No, so it's the vote is to actually develop a process to then submit after it's been properly researched.
Who's going to do the developing?
Dr. Harrison, the thought is that we would have a process by which the board, the staff, and maybe alliance members, but probably just the board and the staff work on this. It could be through work sessions. We could provide the research and support. It's really, we just need to start that process.
Okay, so moving over the vote again. Okay, so proposal is to direct executive director to receive input on new committee and meeting structure from stakeholders, revise proposal, and submit to Rules Committee for review. So it's a step process. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Since there is no more discussion, so all in favor of voting for the proposal as is?
All right, approval by Settle in favor, Harrison in favor, Nikoloff in favor, Brown in favor, Tucker in favor, and Harvey in favor. It looks like everyone is in favor. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you so much. Okay, guys, awesome. All right, so we will have some work to do. Dr. Harvey did not have anything to say. Okay.
Just a time check, Chair Wilson, it's 7:27.
Okay, so we still have 1, 2, 3, 4 issues on the business and the documentation that we need to do. I mean, this was a packed agenda. I think we tried our best. So yeah, we've got 3 minutes. 4 minutes?
We probably can get through one more because the third bullet, we did briefly discuss it previously. So I think we can still get through the next one. I don't think it'll be much discussion.
So I agree. So, so folks, the next on the business, and I think, you know, the Jobs Committee can attest to this, which I will go ahead and do, since you've already seen it in a document, is the proposal now is to submit recommended legislation to City Council regarding the hiring of PAB staff with law enforcement ties. So this is continuously coming up for board members. Oh, hold on, I apologize. Hold on, please, folks. Reverend Nikolov, did you want to propose something?
I just wondered if it'd be worth proposing extending the meeting like half an hour, so if people were willing to vote and say, yes, I have the time, so we can get to more items tonight.
I can't tonight.
Okay.
Okay, just wanted to suggest it, but if we're not able to, then it's fine.
I can't, I just can't.
Right on. Okay, cool.
Dr. Harrison?
You're on mute.
I'm ready to make a comment about the bullet point.
Sure.
I think it's the same problem that the Senate is having with the filibuster. All depending on what the situation is, depends on who's behind is being bitten. And I'm not sure that that we really have. We haven't really had what we've had is a plea, examples given of why this is an inconvenient rule. What we have not adequately heard is why the rule exists in the first place. We have at least one person who was involved in writing the rule who lives in Rochester. I've not heard him invited. That's Ted Forsyth. I've not had him heard him invited to speak to the board about what the reasoning of him and his co-author was. And in fact, we probably could get in touch with the other author by video.
So folks, I want to interject, Dr. Harrison. I did talk to Ted and I also talked to Barbara on Saturday. They are happy to come and meet with the board.
Let's put them on the agenda.
So I move that this be tabled for further discussion.
A second.
All right, all in favor of tabling? Oh, hold on, folks, before we vote. I know that Rabbi, did you have some more discussion you wanted to do?
I had two things to say. I have a procedural thing beforehand.
Sure.
When the agenda was set out, we said it's full and we're likely to run over. That was what we had agreed with when we were going to have longer meetings. So I think for those of us who can stay, we can stay, by the way. I think we've already said that we would need to extend the meeting and it seems, and that's how the procedure we agreed upon. So I think we should do that. So I wanted to say that previously. The other thing is, do Ted and Barbara oppose the change in the charter?
No, they do not.
All right, so then if they don't oppose it, then it doesn't seem to me that we need to consult with them. If they support it and they wrote the legislation,
I disagree.
Then I'm happy.
I'd like to know their rationale.
I was going to say, I disagree. I would like to know the rationale of why they don't, why they don't mind the change. So I would like to speak to them.
Board member
Someone
Brown?
just summarize it for us if you know the answer.
So I can summarize. Really, they meant it to mean the board itself, but I think I don't want to put words in their mouths though.
I think it'll be best if we allow them to articulate exactly the rationale, and I think that's the only way it's going to be sufficient for myself and I can speak for myself. I would want to hear from them.
And we can also ask them too, I mean, because, Barbara lives in Chicago now. If she's not able to make a Zoom meeting, maybe they can send a letter or an email to us explaining why, or we can see what they can do. Okay.
They have wireless in Chicago.
They also have wireless there. Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Harrison. Board Member Rabbi Settle, was there anything else? Okay. Okay, no? All right. Board Member Brown, go ahead.
Yes, I was going to say that I very much would like to hear what the original writers had in mind. There must have been a reason for the rule. And if something has changed during that time, it's better for us to go to the horse's mouth and hear it directly, and then we can make some informed decision.
All right, so there is a motion on the table right now to
Table the discussion.
table the discussion. So
I second it.
I second it. Thank you so much. So all in favor of tabling the discussion until we can speak to the original creators of the discussion piece.
Okay. We have Wilson in favor, Harrison in favor, the Rabbi Settle in favor, Reverend Nikoloff in favor, Member Brown in favor, Member Tucker and Member Harvey in favor. It looks unanimous 7-0.
Thank you so much. And then also, folks, to get to the point that the rabbi did put about going over, who is able to stay until I would say just an extra half hour until 8 p.m. Just a show of hands. Yeah, I mean, be realistic, be honest. I mean, if you can't, that's okay, but okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, I mean, we still have.
Wait, I'm confused. Aren't our meetings supposed to be until 8 p.m. anyway?
We have 6:30 to 7:30 tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yep. That's why we said what we said, because we were just wanted to make sure that we could anticipate, right? So people could reach out if they weren't able to make it. So what we can do is, I think we do have a quorum, I believe. So Reverend Harvey, if you're not able to stay, then that's fine. We can just fill you in after the meeting. Is that okay?
I'm prepared to stay to 8.
Okay, that's fine. That works for me.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone. So we'll be on until 8 p.m. All right. Okay, so moving on to the next agenda item. All right, so we are on 1, 2, 3. All right, so the next agenda item is a proposal to direct executive director to meet with corporation counsel to discuss on-scene access to officer-involved shootings. This is a continuation from the staff report. Is there any other discussion that needs to happen, or can we just ask for a vote? All right, so I'm going to ask for a vote. Oh,
1 second. 2 hands went up at once. Let's first go with Dr. Harrison, and then we'll go with the rabbi. Go ahead, Dr. Harrison.
I'm trying to think of how I can say, I want it to be officer involved stuff. I don't want it to be restricted to shootings. You know,
yeah,
Good
constant-
point.
what if an officer stabs somebody? What if an officer beats somebody's head in? I want it to be, let's say officer involved malfeasance. Does that
Or-
sound better?
Anything.
I would say incident. It's like that we would.
Malfeasance, come on, that's a good word. Whatever you say,
ahead,
whatever you say,
Director.
Chairperson.
Thank you. Executive Director, go ahead.
One of the issues is that, when there's been an officer involved shooting or an officer involved stabbing, or whatever you want to call it, some people might think that PAB doesn't have reason to be there because there isn't necessarily evidence of wrongdoing. Right? There's just the potential for wrongdoing to be there. So it has to be broader than just malfeasance. It's anything that could even potentially have malfeasance or not. Essentially anything that involves the police.
Okay. Rabbi, and then Board Member Brown, sorry.
So I will, so Director Reynolds, is the conversation we need to have about being present at the scene, or is it about the role of Corporation Counsel in making determinations about the PAB, given its conflict of interest?
Was that a question to me, Rabbi Settle? I couldn't.
Well, it's a question to you about whether you think, I mean, in other words, are we going to have this conversation and then just keep having more conversations because of this underlying structural problem? And I guess part one, and I have to say, I guess I was confused in reading about this, about given the way the charter says that we have certain access and information from the RPD, why Corporation Counsel is weighing in anyway. In other words, why it isn't a direct sort of communication with the RPD about we will be present, if you will.
Yeah, I can answer that.
Mm-hmm.
So we asked for the law department's input, not their approval, but their input. And their input has been helpful because it has helped us identify some areas where it might not, but the board at the end of the day is responsible for adopting the rules and doing our work. The issue, of course, is that the Corporation Counsel is the advisor to RPD, which, as you identified, is a conflict in many situations. But the RPD won't do anything unless the law department says so. Now, of course, you could file lawsuits, you could file litigation, but we don't want to have that adversarial approach. We want to work things out. We want to have conversations. And so while at the end of the day, we have the authority to do things, we want to see if we can talk things out before having to take next steps. That's been the approach of the staff so far. And when we spoke with the law department about this, we wanted to sequence. We bring the rules to the board so they can start looking at it. Then we receive law department input. Then we would go to the RPD. That was the sequence that we all kind of agreed on in winter of last year.
Mm-hmm.
It's about sequencing. So
Thank you, Director Reynolds. Let's go with Board Member Brown.
I wanted to flash back to Board Member Harrison's problem with the word shooting, and he substituted malfeasance, which Director Reynolds decided was really not the best word to use. Lawyer Reynolds, what do you suggest we put there? So we don't have to have this discussion again.
The rules get into this a little bit with the idea of incidents. Is a word that we can use. There seems to be, for some reason, some law department issue with that word too. Whatever word we come up with, someone's going to have an issue with it. But incident can cover a lot of different things. And the reality is that this community wants us to investigate anything. And I know, Board Member Brown, you need to have something personally delivered to your home. I know that that's been promised to you and that needs to happen. But something I just want to show to people is the core part of the city charter. So here's the real issue here, okay? City charter section, so the members of the public can kind of follow along. Section 18-3F of the city charter says, based on information and belief that an investigation is warranted, the board shall have power to conduct an investigation even in the absence of a civilian complaint. What does that mean? Whenever we think that an investigation is warranted, we get to investigate. Okay? And that is, we get to investigate.
Could you make that print a little smaller?
That's it. Is that, I'm sorry, that was a joke. He's kidding. He's kidding members of the public. Sorry. There we go. So that folks can see it. Is that a little bit better?
Yep.
So this is exceptionally broad. Right?
see hands from Brown and Tucker.
Brown and Chair Wilson.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brown and Wilson. Whoops.
Yes.
My hand was still up to ask you to do we have to vote on your substituting, taking the word shooting out and, okay. So is it my understanding that you will now use incident in that place? And okay, that's good. And what I am waiting for, Director Reynolds has agreed to send me the entire law because I haven't read it.
The whole charter.
Board Member Harrison, pull my coattail about that. And, girly girl, if you want to be here and do stuff, you need to start at the beginning and read everything so that you're more knowledgeable. And he is so very right. And I appreciate him doing that for me so that once I have read it, and if there are parts that I stumble over, I don't understand, I feel that I can go to the Board Member Harrison or the director, who is a lawyer, to explain it to me, because we will be dealing with people's lives, and it's essential that we at least know the basic law part. It was Board Member Harrison that brought to my attention that we are not allowed to come to a meeting and for the entire meeting just have our picture up and we not read it. There's something in that law that says you can't do that. It's like doing it on the telephone because you don't know who's on the other end of the phone. So that's one of the reasons that we will always supposed to meet in person, but you know what you're dealing with, know who you're dealing with. I had no clue because I hadn't read the rule. So I'm going to start from the beginning and do what I should have done months ago.
Thank you, Board Member Brown. Let's go with, you want to speak now or you want to wait to Shawnee, Director
I
Reynolds?
have a brief response to Board Member Brown.
Oh, go ahead, Director
Yes.
Reynolds.
I think what Board Member Brown is getting at is the charter, the whole city charter, so many different parts of it, as well as New York State law. It's more than just the PAB section of the charter that board members have read. It's more than just the rules that people have read. It's these bigger things. I think what we're all learning is that there's so much more knowledge we have to have, which is why the board will be receiving training on all of these subjects before they start investigating. And that's why the board and our lawyers who we have on staff are resources for the board. If you ever want to be trained on something, if you ever want to know something, it's my job to get you that information. Shoot me an email, we'll make it happen.
Chair Wilson?
All right, thank you. So the last thing I'll say about the word incident is, I'm thinking about in medicine, when we talk about not otherwise specified. It's like a special designation to give something that we aren't quite sure what it is yet, or there is no way to actually give it a proper diagnosis, right? When we talk about emergency medicine, a mass critical incident isn't a car wreck until it's actually a car wreck. And so that's why I like the word incident, because I think it's encompassing and it actually gets into the kind of the gray areas, what we need. We don't know what a scene's going to be like until we're there, right? It could be, it could come in as like, it could be, called in as like a, pedestrian struck, and then you get there and then it's a completely different scene. So you don't know who's going to call. So incident is what I like. That's it.
Thank you, Chair Wilson. I think we're now ready to vote on the proposal.
Okay. So again, proposal is to direct executive director to meet with corporation counsel to discuss on-scene access to officer-involved
Incidents.
I need a second, and I need
Second.
Okay. All in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
I see Brown in favor, Nikolov in favor, Rabbi Settle in favor, Harvey in favor, Harrison in favor, and Tucker in favor. It looks unanimous, 7-0.
Thank you. Okay.
Just a time check, it's 7:47. We have about 13 minutes left.
Okay. Rabbi Settle?
Your
That
hand
was
is still up.
Mistake.
I think it was just that they didn't put their hands down after the last vote.
Okay, Reverend Harvey, did you have?
No, I didn't put my hand down.
Okay.
Hand is down.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we have a proposal to hire a consultant that I put forward. And there will be a possible adjournment to executive session to discuss specific candidate. And then I'm actually in a couple of them to both because Board Member Harrison has also asked to conduct additional research on consultants. And I think that those should be considered both at the same time. Rabbi Settle and Board Member Harrison.
I would like to propose that rather going into executive session, that we clearly determine what we want to hire trainers to do, and then have a specific period of time during which all of us can, if we wish, ask people to submit proposals and or resumes. So instead of sort of randomly taking people as people suggest them, we sort of see the whole, potential group and give everybody an opportunity to sort of think about whether they have resources and know people who they think would be good.
Thank you, Rabbi. Dr. Harrison?
A week or so ago, when this came up again, I Googled a little bit here and there. And what I found is that St. John Fisher and the University of Rochester, at a minimum.
Sorry, Bob, I just need a motion. So either someone's going to second it or not, but
They didn't.
They didn't. So, but we didn't ask for a second.
So I think, can you go ahead and reiterate or your motion, please?
Yes, I would like to move that the board clarify, come up with some kind of statement about what further training or steps that we want, and then decide on a specific timeline by which people will be able, potential consultants or trainers will be able to submit proposals and have the board decide.
Okay, so there needs to be a second and then we need to move into discussion, correct?
I second.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move into discussion. Board Member Harrison, go ahead.
As I started to say, the St. John Fisher and the University of Rochester both have programs that are specifically designed to provide the kinds of services we're talking about. I've just scanned them. I didn't memorize everything about them. But I do know one person, James Norman, who's the former head of ABC, Action for a Better Community, and well-known and respected in the area, is associated with both programs. And so my suggestion was not that he be a consultant or an instructor or anything of the sort. My suggestion was that we ask him to come and tell us about the different programs, because right now we're just sort of flying along without any firm basis for what we're doing.
Thank you, Dr. Harrison. Let's go with Chair Wilson.
So I agree. I'm willing to hear that. I think that the thing though is that I would like to make sure that the board is of the understanding, or at least have the discussion around what is it that we actually want to accomplish with whomever we go after. What is it that we want? We have, just like you all saw in my letter, I did submit to you all a couple weeks ago in an email that I wish that people could submit folks that they would like to see. I had already spoken to Rabbi Settle about somebody that she wanted to submit that had been working with governmental boards. I think that we should look at people that have governmental board experience, since that's what we are. But also too, folks, we have people that we want to serve on this board that will have no access to board member or board experience, and they're community members, like the persons that I walk by every day that are just waiting for the bus. Right? We want to make sure that they have equal access, just like we do. You shouldn't have to have a degree in order to serve in this board. And so we want to make sure that there's equal access. So there needs to be training and development around board members. So as long as we're thinking about that, done.
Dr. Harrison, is that your, is there any more discussion on this proposal?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Okay. So, okay, so we have Rabbi Settle's proposal right now on the floor. So,
Mhm.
okay, Ms. Pacheco, can you go ahead and reiterate that again? That got long. There's a second, but I know we have to just call the vote.
Her proposal was actually very similar to what you had just stated. The board needs to figure out exactly what we
Yeah.
want and write down what we want and have whoever the potential candidates are submit resumes and their
Mhm.
resumes as to how can they help the board with accomplishing what we want.
So I think I have a clarifying question because that's not the proposal that we have now. So the proposal that we have now is what is in the agenda. So Rabbi is asked to augment it. And so do we have to vote to strike down the proposal, just for clarification?
Nobody moved what was in, nobody made a motion for what was in the agenda.
Oh, that's true. Okay, do we have to we should make a motion for what's on the agenda and then get rid of it and then put rabbis in that place? I know, listen, it's checkers.
We're not obligated. We're not obligated.
We're not obligated to recognize. Okay, that's true too.
Nope.
All right, so we have a seconded motion for Rabbi Settle's proposal. All in favor?
Okay. I see Tucker in favor, Wilson in favor, Settle in favor, Nikoloff in favor, Harvey in favor, Brown in favor, and Harrison, how do you vote? Aye. Okay, that looks unanimous, 7-0.
Okay, thank you so much. Then this kind of folds into the last proposal, which is to conduct additional research, which, you know, I don't think we necessarily need to vote on. Again, since that's what we're doing, since we just voted on doing additional research on candidates and then having them be submitted. So, okay. Oh my goodness. Yes.
Chairperson Wilson,
Yes. Hello.
I'd like to move that we invite James Norman to speak to the board about the
Mhm.
facilities that are available in Rochester.
I
A
second. that.
second.
Okay. All in favor of inviting James Norman to come and speak to us about what's available?
Okay, I see Tucker in favor, Wilson in favor,
wait,
Brown in
wait,
favor,
wait,
Nikoloff
one
in
question.
favor.
I have one question. I'm sorry. You haven't really been clear to me about what his expertise in. Is his expertise in governmental boards? Bob?
What?
I wasn't clear from what you had to say what his expertise was in. Is it in governmental boards?
I'm not asking for his particular expertise. I'm asking him to describe the programs that he's associated with.
But what are
Which would-
those?
which
But
would
I don't know.
include-
I don't understand.
Hold on, Rabbi, you gotta
But
let him
again,
finish
I
speaking.
want more information about how they're.
All right, folks, we
Rabbi, you have
a-
to let him finish speaking.
Okay, Danielle, thanks.
I think that a presentation by him describing the different programs that are present at at least the two universities would include whatever information they had about government associated entities.
Okay, I'm sorry, Bob. I just don't understand. What are the programs?
One is the CCE. I don't remember.
Sorry.
But you can look them up. You can Google them. One's at St. John Fisher, and the other one is at the U of R in the Warner School.
Okay.
And as I said, Norman is was head of ABC for something like 20 or 30 years, and is just a longtime person in the area. And he's Jesse Norman's brother.
Now you got my vote.
Okay. Okay, so all in favor of the vote on the floor?
Yes, okay. Wilson in favor, Tucker in favor, Brown in favor, Harrison in favor, Harvey in favor, Nikolov, how do you vote? In favor, and Rabbi, how do you vote?
I don't know if our internet's not working or.
Meaning for absence of information. Yeah.
Abstaining, okay.
Okay,
So that will carry 6-2 with one abstention for settle. Okay.
so I think folks that there will be more people that we would like to talk with. I know that there are multiple people that we know in our communities that can speak to us. And so I just would encourage board members to submit those names so that we can get them scheduled so that they can talk to us. Okay. All right. And I can't believe it, but I think we are just about to adjourn here. So I can't believe that. So we have 2 minutes left. Thank you for such a productive board meeting, everyone. I did want to announce 2 things to the public. So we have board member Ida Perez and board member Celia McIntosh, Dr. Celia McIntosh. Okay, they have gone ahead and they have resigned. And so we thank them for their service. We thank them for the different parts of everything that they've done for the board. Part of the reason why the 2 of them were so special was because we all the wisdom and expertise that the both of them brought really put a dimension to the board that we will be sad to lose. But we wish them the best, and we know that they are already doing great things in the community. And so we can't wait to see what they do with that, especially Dr. McIntosh. But that means that we now have another opening for our board. And now we are moving into a new dimension, a new wave or new area of a new and exciting area of starting to hear cases and moving into a new building. And so we need somebody to partner with us with that. And so we are looking forward to receiving information, and we will look forward to that. Okay, so now I'm going to have a motion to adjourn, please. Seconded. Yes, go ahead, Marina. Or sorry, Ms. Pacheco.
Who seconded?
We had Brown and Tucker.
No one.
And Rabbi Settle. Okay.
No one seconds the motion to adjourn.
Okay. All right. Well, either way, they raised their hands. They're recorded as seconding. So, all right. So we're okay. Are you raising your hand to? Is there anything you would like to say?
No, I was just to adjourn. Sorry.
Okay. So motion to adjourn. Yep. So
Yes.
we're all in favor of adjournment. Okay. All right.
Right.
Thank you so much. Talk with you all soon. Thank you for such a productive
Thanks,
meeting, everyone.
everybody.